Good afternoon and welcome to CCN Midday News. I am your host, Captivating Christian, and here are some of your top stories for today, the 9th of July. United Airlines to lay off up to 36,000 U.S. employees in October as travel remains depressed. U.S. coronavirus cases passes 3 million. The U.S. hit the milestone as Trump demands schools reopen and criticized his public health agency. Alexander Vindman to retire from the military. His lawyer blames the White House campaign of bullying, intimidation, and retaliation. Lawmakers paralyzed over response to Russia's bounty intel. Trump has called intel reporting on the bounty a hoax. Trump threatens to cut federal funds from schools that don't reopen. Education Secretary slams adults who fear and making excuses for not reopening. The Supreme Court made it easier for employers to deny insurance coverage for birth control. And Joe Shapiro, the man who took the SATs for Trump, and the two people who painted over the California Black Lives Matter mural are charged with a hate crime. Let's get to the news. United Airlines has been warning employees for months that mass layoffs loom if travel doesn't rebound. The airline has put a grim face on the expected tally on Wednesday. In a memo to employees, the Chicago-based airline said that 36,000 employees, or 45% of its frontline workers in the United States, which is more than a third of its overall workforce, making up about 95,000 people, face layoffs around or about October 1st. The most impacted group are flight attendants, airport customer service, gate agents, which make up about 26 to 36,000 people. The airline is calling them involuntary furloughs because most of the affected employees will be eligible to be recalled when travel demands return under terms of their union contract. Airlines are prohibited from laying off workers until October 1st under the payroll protection provision of the Federal CARES Act. United received about $3.5 billion in grants and $1.5 billion loan for payroll protection. The program is designed to stabilize airlines and keep workers employed until they can shrink their businesses to travel reality brought on by the coronavirus pandemic. Okay, so now we're at the part of this broadcast in which I give my personal commentary on my thoughts on a lot of the stories. So this first one is about the United Airlines cutting 36,000 jobs by October 1st. The problem is just what it is. Due to this pandemic, a lot of businesses are going to have to downsize and scale back a lot of their activity, which would cause a lot of people to lose their jobs. And the fact that you have a government that is talking about stopping unemployment benefits, which would be a problem, which would leave a lot of people who have jobs in limbo without any cushion or security, which can also be dangerous. But anyway, getting back to this story, the issue is the furlough situation. A lot of times when you're furloughed, it's an in-between, and it's harder for people to get full unemployment benefits under a furloughed situation. And again, like I just said, with a government not trying to give unemployment benefits past the end of this month or the beginning of this month or something like that, or the middle of the month, there's no, what security would these people have? And it's ridiculous. And the fact that their lives hang in the balance. It makes no sense. It really makes no sense. We need to do better. We need a different mindset, a different administration, someone different at the helm, because it's not going to work. The United States has surpassed 3 million confirmed coronavirus cases, with infections rising in at least 40 states. The Trump administration is pushing to reopen schools this fall. It took less than a month for the national case count to rise to this level, from 2 million on June 11th, with cases and hospitalizations spiking in states including Arizona, California, Florida, and Texas. Some public health officials have predicted the pace would further intensify and perhaps reach 100,000 new cases a day if the virus isn't controlled. The count broke 3 million on Wednesday morning based on a tracker maintained by the Johns Hopkins University. Brazil has the second biggest case load, exceeding 1.6 million. The U.S. also leads the world in COVID-19 deaths with over 133,000. The grim milestone came as President Donald Trump formally submitted the U.S. notice to withdraw from the World Health Organization, otherwise known as WHO, over the group's handling of the pandemic, and some of the members of his administration urging new public health precautions to contain the disease. Okay, so we have reached 3 million people infected with the coronavirus, which is a large number considering there are roughly, and don't quote me exactly on the math, but there is roughly 328.2 million people in the United States, in America, and we are already at about 1%, 0.94, give or take, something around there, percent of people infected with the coronavirus by reaching this milestone of 3 million people infected. Again, we only have 328 million people in the United States, and it's only been months since the coronavirus has full-on hit the United States without any precautions. Just, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, no lube, no nothing, straight to it. We are exactly, like I said, we are at 1% of the population already thus far with confirmed cases of the coronavirus. This should be troubling to any and everyone. We should all be concerned, worried that this thing is growing, and if we don't get a tackle on it, like the report has said, they're looking at it being 100,000 cases a day. That's a lot of damn people. Like, I know we talk numbers and you think, it's not, but 100,000 people a day confirmed cases being affected. Yeah, we could reach 10% of the population, 20% of the population by those numbers. That's not, way out there. It's not, as he likes to say, fake news or a hoax. That's serious. Again, we're already at 1% of the population already. So that's concerning, and we need to start taking this a little more seriously. Continue to buckle down if you do. Don't get too worked up about it, but we do need to start really taking this seriously, because my thoughts, and they've always been mine, that people will start using the virus to weaponize and depress groups of people once they realize who it affects more and who would be hurt more by it. They're going to start using it as a weapon. So just be careful, be mindful, stay safe. Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Vindman, a key witness in President Donald Trump's impeachment inquiry, is retiring from the U.S. Army after more than 21 years of military service because he had determined his future in the armed services will forever be limited due to the political retaliation by the president and his allies, his lawyer told CNN on Wednesday. Vindman had endured a campaign of bullying, intimidation, and retaliation, spearheaded by the President of the United States following his testimony in the impeachment inquiry last year. According to his attorney, news of Vindman's retirement marks the month-long saga dating back to his public testimony back in November. Trump fired Vindman as the top Ukrainian expert in the Security Council in February and also ousted his twin brother, who also played a key role in the impeachment process while serving at the White House as a NSC lawyer. In recent weeks, however, the controversy has centered around allegations that the White House was attempting to block Vindman's upcoming military promotion to the rank of colonel. Ultimately, Vindman decided to retire from the military rather than attend the National War College, which was the next step planned assignment, after speaking with the senior Army officials who made it clear that there were forces working against his advancement within the military. Okay, so this I think is completely disgusting. Anybody who's in the military and armed forces and you are okay with this type of treatment, I think that's an issue in and of itself. And as someone who is a commander-in-chief, there's a particular way you conduct yourself, and that you have the people who are beneath you, you expect them to conduct themselves as well. And to orchestrate a campaign and secretly push for the punishment of a fellow officer who was really just sounding the alarm and protecting and serving, which he took an oath to do, is really sad. This is about Colonel Vindman, of course, retiring from the Army after 21 years of service because he was bullied and by the president and many people in the armed forces because of him speaking out against what the president had done with his conversation, which is the president's conversation with the president of Ukraine over trying to find dirt on Joe Biden and Hunter Biden so he can use it for political reasons during this upcoming election. We've come to a different place in our political atmosphere where nothing matters anymore. There used to be a level of respect that the military carried, all the armed forces carried, and Trump seems to muddy everything he touches to preserve what he feels to be right and correct. And as people who served in the armed forces, I just don't see how you could just sit silently and just allow this to happen. It brings such a distaste to our armed forces, all of our forms of government, and it tarnishes everything. And it's unfortunate that this young man had to retire because there were things from the top coming to attack him, that even if he continued on to press on towards his promotion, they would still try to backdoor him or demean him in some way. And who wants to continue to live like that? And it's unfortunate that, again, the president of the United States is the ringleader of all this because you didn't like that the person testified against you, but there was some misconduct, period. And you didn't come out forthright and say, hey, I had a conversation with the Ukrainian president. Nothing came about it, but this was the conversation. No, you hid it. You hid it on purpose because you knew that you knew that it wasn't right. And the only reason why you had to expose it is because you got busted. So that's what I just find it to be a little disheartening and just disingenuous. And to have a first lady whose program is Be Best against cyberbullying and had the biggest bully of them all be her husband is just complete and utter bullshit. Like, it's ridiculous. Members of Congress were consumed last week with reports that the Russian government was paying bounties to Taliban militants who killed U.S. troops overseas. But now it appears poised to do little, if anything, about it, citing disputed intelligence assessments and interagency squabbles. Lawmakers emerged from the top-secret briefing cautious and mostly tight-lipped about the news report suggesting that the Russians had American blood on their hands. These lawmakers, mostly Republican, repeatedly stressed that there were no consensus on whether the GRU, which is the Russian military agency unit, orchestrated the bounty, despite news reports from the New York Times and others that have detailed and the alleged scheme with increasing specificity. The Trump administration also appeared to sow doubt over the issue, with President Donald Trump and his aides either questioning the accuracy of the intelligence or labeling the report on the bounties an outright hoax. The congressional Republicans recently rejected an amendment to the annual defense policy bill that would impose new sanctions on Moscow. Okay, so I am done with the patriotism of the Republican Party at this point. I believe Russia has dipped their little Kremlin hands into everybody's pocket. Lawmakers on the Republican side has either put money in their pocket or threatened to reveal some of their deep, dark secrets if they don't jump on board. Because this makes absolutely no sense to me. Again, as much as they talk about how patriotic and for America and America first they are, you get clear intel from every inch of the intelligence agencies that we trust and know that the Russians have been paying third party to Taliban militants to kill U.S. soldiers. And now you have nothing to say. You have, oh, we don't know, we don't trust the intel is sketchy, so on and so forth. Again, full of BS. Like, I really am becoming very frustrated at the lack of this spineless party to get it together and say enough is enough. You can say that these Russians are doing something that is basically asking for war. There's nothing wrong with that. However, there is something wrong with that when you have a president who is beholden to these Russians, when you have his naysayers who are probably in bed with a lot of these Russian oligarchs who have been throwing money in their campaigns secretly, or again, have dirt on a lot of these politicians and their little dirty side secrets that they don't want anybody to know that, the Russians know. And, they're dangling these carrots in front of these people while at the same time doing things like having warcraft airplanes flying by Alaska, or the aircraft carriers in the sea by Alaska. Why would you be Why would you be posted up there with war planes and guns and things if that's not what you were trying to do? All at the same time, this president totally ignores it and act like it doesn't exist. So what, you were just waiting for the Russians to just come marching to reclaim Alaska back? Is that what we're supposed to do? And we're supposed to just allow Russia to do that? Is this the plan? Because I'm confused. Because while we're concerned about coronavirus, which is very important, and police brutality, which is very important, and taking down Confederate flags and monuments and things, Russia is doing a whole thing under our noses. And nobody seems to care. And I'm trying to figure out why. These same people that America first, we just need to stick to ourselves and keep to ourselves. Okay, so now we've done it. He's erased everything. And you still gonna let, okay. Just so we're clear, I'm just making sure that I see it. That's all. President Donald Trump and Education Secretary Betsy DeVos are threatening to cut federal funding if schools don't fully physically reopen, increasing pressure on the education leaders as the Trump administration intensifies its drive to get kids back in the classroom. Trump on Wednesday morning tweeted, "In Germany, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, and many other countries, schools are open with no problems. The Dems think that it would be bad for them politically if U.S. schools opened before the November election, but it's important for children and families. May cut funding if not open." On Tuesday night, DeVos said, "Very seriously looking at withholding federal funds from schools that don't open their doors this fall." Federal funding for K through 12 schools include billions for low-income schools and special education, but education leaders immediately questioned how the administration would propose to hold back these funds or others. And here we are again with another set of complete and utter, I cannot believe this is happening. So, because you don't have the power to reopen schools, because the governors have that power, and I guess somebody must have told you that today when your next step was, oh, well, if you don't reopen the schools, we're going to hold back funding. Now, that's going to be a hard kind of a hard thing to do, but who knows? If he has some governors and if he has some Republican governors who are willing to do it and follow his lead, then I guess he may be able to hold some funds back on some particular states. But that would be interesting. So you mean to tell me you would force schools to open in the fall just so what? Because it's important for the children to go to school? No, it's important for the children to get an education. And if you can withhold funds, then that means that you can take those funds and find an alternative way for the schools to be able to still educate, and maybe not in the a person actually physically going to the school to get the education. And we just do a virtual education until we can get a grip on this pandemic. Now, it's funny to me, and I don't know if anybody else caught this, that the nations he mentioned opened up their school districts and were fine were places where they're mostly white people, where the majority of the people in those particular countries are white. And that was funny to me. That's the only one seems like those the only ones you think of. Those are the only ones that you know, or that you're so gun ho with. Everything's about Sweden and Denmark and all these places where there are white Anglo-Saxon European people. That's interesting. Again, always showing his cards all the time, and I don't know why people don't seem to believe it. This man he's a bigot, he's a racist, and it's just he is what he is. Um, and the more we just go along, is the more we become accepting of it. And that needs to stop. But neither here nor there. Getting off of there, but yeah. So the Secretary of Education, Betsy DeVos, her crooked ass. So they're ganging up to withhold funds from schools that choose not to reopen out of safety precautions, for not only the students but the teachers as well. And that's not what everybody seems to be talking about. The focus seems to be on just reopening the schools because it's important for the kids, but we're not thinking about the teachers, nor are we thinking about where these students are coming from, who they've been interacting with, who may have possibly had COVID or have COVID, that they may be immune to at this point because they're around that nucleus of people. But to bring them around other students and teachers, you're talking about a whole catastrophic bomb about to implode on students and teachers, that if there is no need for it, why? I just don't understand it. It's like, forget about your election hopes right now. Think more about the cause and effect of your actions. But everything is not about covering up so things can go back as normal and you can make it look good. Almost like almost like somebody cleaning their room. Like you was a kid and you had to clean your room, and you threw stuff in the closet under the bed and everything looked nice, so your mom came in and go, "Oh, okay, you did a nice job." And then she went to like look under the bed or look in the closet and all this stuff come falling out. It's like that's what he's trying to give. It's like you trying to give the appearance of, look, everything's back to normal, while yet hospitals are over flooded, people are dying, doctors are starting to choose who gets to live and who gets to die. Come on, like this is ridiculous already. Please, November, hurry up. The Supreme Court sided with the Trump administration on Wednesday, granting businesses and universities the ability to refuse to provide birth control coverage for their employees for religious or moral reasons. The decision, pertaining to two cases which the Supreme Court combined and heard together over video chat back in May. The Little Sisters of the Poor versus Pennsylvania and the Trump administration versus Pennsylvania. Both of these cases concerning an Obama administration era requirement under the Affordable Care Act, which mandated that all employers in the U.S. provide their employees with insurance coverage for contraceptions, or apply for an exemption that would enable their employees to get insurance coverage through another entity. Religious organizations like the Catholic charity organizations Little Sisters of the Poor, one of the plaintiffs in the case decided on Wednesday, argued that filling out a form to get the exemption was a violation of their freedom of conscience. And as they were still practicing in enabling their employees to get contraceptions, which they are religiously opposed to, the case was decided 5-2 with two justices departing from their more liberal colleagues and writing a concurrent opinion. In 2017, the Trump administration passed two rules attempting to accommodate the organization that posed contraception, allowing any organization with a moral or religious opposition to providing contraceptions to opt out entirely. The rules were quickly blocked in the courts, so in 2018, the administration issued a second version of the rules, which had essentially the same effect but with different language. Okay, so in a move in which the Supreme Court has sided with the Trump administration to allow employers to not mandate contraception in insurance packages, which the Affordable Care Act had set the mandate. The Trump administration, since 2017, has been trying to do away with this, I guess, pandering to the more religious organizations as far as businesses are concerned. That they were not mandated to have this type of insurance part of their package because they did not believe in contraceptives or anything like that. So, the Trump administration has tried back in 2017 to do away with it, but it was blocked by the court. So then they changed the language of their argument and brought it before the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court has, agreed that businesses who have a moral or more of a religious backing are not required to carry insurance for contraception for their employees. So we'll see how interesting this is, because just the last two or so cases, the Supreme Court has went against the Trump administration, and then all of a sudden we just saw, I don't know if any of you saw, but Justice Chief Roberts a month ago had fell and was hospitalized, and we just found out about this shortly after the Supreme Court twice went against the Trump administration. So he has a lot of tactics, him and the rest of his cronies and the people, a lot of tactics for people who go against him and do not follow suit with the agenda that he's pushing forward. He will start to let out your secrets, but that's funny because his secrets are starting to come out too, if you know what I mean. Continue to watch. The University of Pennsylvania Walton School is being thrust into the spotlight after it was alleged that President Donald Trump was admitted after his sister did his homework for him and a friend by the name of Joe Shapiro took his SATs. In a new tell-all book by the president's niece, Mary Trump, it was revealed that the Penn graduate wasn't quite the genius he has claimed to be. He announced that he was the first in his class at Walton, though he never was admitted to the prestigious MBA program at the school, and he was never listed on the dean's list the year he graduated, the Penn Student newspaper reported back in 2017. According to a 1980 profile in the New York Magazine, Shapiro noted Trump was bored at Walton. Shapiro passed away in 1999 at the age of 52, and the New York Times biography of him describes his stellar educational career that is far from the likes of Trump's lies of being a very stable genius. He was a Phi Beta Kappa graduate of Penn and went on to get a law degree from Harvard with honors. He served as an executive vice president of Walt Disney and served as the company's general counselor under the CEO Mike Eisner, and specialized in negotiations of major contracts. He also battled non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. He taught at California State University in Los Angeles. Joe built an entire legal department. He had a brilliant mind, both for law and for business, and he has been much missed throughout Disney. Okay, so I don't know how many of you followed my story yesterday, but Mary Trump, the niece of President Donald Trump, is coming out with a tell-all book, basically telling all of Donald Trump's hidden little secrets or family secrets that she may know of. So here we go. Yesterday, I talked about there was an allegation made in her book that Donald Trump had cheated on his SATs and had someone take it for him. So apparently, the news is that the person who took Donald Trump's SAT is known as Joe Shapiro. Joe Shapiro, who was a graduate of Penn, who had a stellar educational career, went on to get a law degree from Harvard and graduate with honors, and was also working with the Walt Disney Company, as well as starting his own legal department. He died, however, in 1999 at the age of 52 from cancer, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Before that, Michael Eisner, who was at the time the CEO of Disney, basically talked about how great of a man he was, and his presence is sorely missed at Disney. So that is the man who took the SATs for the president. He said that while he was at Penn during the same time that Donald Trump was, that Donald Trump seemed bored at Walton School of Business. Maybe that he wasn't bored, he was just uninterested because he wasn't getting it. I mean, if his sister did his homework and you did his SATs, did his homework so he can get into an Ivy League school, and then you took the SATs, obviously he was not innate for higher education, and he just wasn't. I mean, that's okay. Everybody isn't. It's not a good or a bad thing that there are some people that just, skipped college and went on and had great careers. It's possible. It is not it's not a thing where it's like impossible. However, this man, went on to have a stellar academic career and live his life. But I'm just trying to figure out, for the life of me, all of this talk that this man had done to degrade this black man of the educational accolades that he has obtained through hard work and study and all this, to diminish it and belittle his achievements. And here you are, a cheat, which we've already known, a cheat, a liar, just all these things, and people are okay with that. Again, shows the level of privilege that you have, and it has nothing to do with your money. It has everything to do with your race. The fact that this black man had to work 3-4 times as hard to obtain these accolades and be respected in the educational community, and then to go on to be president and still have to prove himself and not have a blemish and all this other kind of stuff. And here you go waltzing in with your lies and fabrications, and that's okay. It's ridiculous to me. But anyway, just my thoughts. And that's what I mean. Just privilege, privilege, privilege. The two people who painted over a street mural reading Black Lives Matter in California has been charged with a hate crime. We must address the root and byproduct of systematic racism in our country. The Black Lives Matter movement is an important civil rights cause that deserves all of our attention, the district attorney said in a statement. The mural, completed last weekend, was a peaceful and powerful way to communicate the importance of Black lives in the Costa County and the country. She continued on to say, we must continue to elevate the discussion and actually listen to one another in an effort to heal our community and our country. Nicole Anderson and David Nelson have been charged with 3 misdemeanors, including violations of civil rights. If convicted, the two could face up to a year in county jail. The two are charged with partly painting over the mural. On the 4th of July, the act was caught on video and shared widely on social media. The district attorney's office also noted in the footage that the woman identified as Anderson is wearing a shirt with the American flag designed in a shape of a heart and using a roller to paint over the yellow lettering B and L in the mural. The man, identified as Nelson, is wearing a 4 more years t-shirt and recording people who stopped to watch. Okay, so lastly, I am so happy that these 2 big jars of mayonnaise, as Charlemagne the God would say, are being charged with hate crimes. And they have a possibility of facing up to a year in prison due to the vandalism that they did on the Black Lives Matter mural in California, because they didn't want to see it in their eyesight, and they felt like it was infringing on their civil liberties. So yeah, I mean, it's about time that racist acts get called out and are charged with what they are as hate crimes, and not just, I didn't understand. Now I fully understand after you get fired, or you get ran through the coals on social media. Then you begin to understand, no, things need to be charged as hate crimes, period, because that's what they are. They are hate crimes. You wouldn't, if you had remember the Holocaust and somebody painted over that, or drew a swastika on anything, you would instantly, oh my God, it's a hate crime. It's the same thing. For somebody to paint over the Black Lives Matter mural, and then you had to be smart enough to use black paint because it would just make Black Lives Matter black. Dummy. So I really didn't understand that. Yellow is more of a universal color, so that's why they spray painted it in yellow, because it's a more inclusive color. Although the words say Black Lives Matter, the color is yellow, and yellow is, kind of brings it all together. However, you painting it over black makes Black Lives Matter just black. So thank you for that. But anyway, yeah, these people could be facing up to a year in jail. We'll see how this goes. I personally feel that the Justice Department, old sneaky Bill Barr, will roll his old fat ass over to the California Attorney General's office to let him know that the president would not be happy if they were to charge these 2 people, being that they had mega hats and 4 more years to make America great. Now, if you need 4 more years to make America great, then that would actually mean that America was not great when you took office, right? So, of course, the gentleman was wearing the 4 more years